Please join us in welcoming Executive Vice President and Chief Commercial Officer for United Airlines, Andrew Nocella, in discussion with Skift Airlines editor, Gordon Smith.
Andrew, welcome to the Skift Global Forum. We're really excited to have you with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
You're welcome. There's so many places that we could begin, but let's kick off with the Starlink internet. You're getting high-speed internet on the United fleet, potentially as soon as next year. I'm curious about the ROI for this project, because currently you pay for internet on a United aircraft, $8 to $10, potentially more for an international flight. You're about to give it all away for free, plus the installation costs for Starlink. Tell us where the ROI is.
Well, look, first of all, I think people underestimate what this announcement really means, because Starlink just enables a living room-like experience on board the aircraft. It's completely different than the systems that are flying around the world today, and it's going to be, you'll get the signal just about everywhere. So that's the most important thing. And the other thing that I think is really amazing about Starlink is we're communicating with satellites that are really close to the Earth, so it's really low latency, so the signal goes back and forth very quickly. And even more important is the reliability of the system, because the antenna has no moving parts. The antennas today on board our aircraft are always trying to move to keep up with the satellites. And that's what breaks, and that's why the system on board the aircraft are not as reliable as we'd like to all see it. So that is why this is revolutionary, living room experience and reliability that will be unbelievable for our customers. At the end of the day, we've seen this revolution. We've seen hotels go free. We knew this was always coming, but we just didn't have enough bandwidth to satisfy free. And now we do, and we can do it reliably. It's going to take a while to get it out there, but this is a revolution in the air. It'll allow our team members on board the aircraft to also have access to that technology, and it'll allow those screens in front of you in every single seat to have access to that technology as well. And you put all that together, that is an experience on board a U.S. airline aircraft that no other of our competitors are really going to offer at scale like we're going to do it.
You speak about customers, Andrew. I'm sure there's many of them in the audience
here.
I hope so. Can you promise United passengers that they won't be paying indirectly for Starlink through higher fares?
Well, I think we will continue to offer fares that make sense in the marketplace we do today, but I can say that Starlink will be free. I think that's the least exciting part of our announcement, quite honestly, because this is about reliability and access and living room-like experience. But we'll continue to charge fares that are appropriate for the markets that we serve. Our competitors won't offer that service, and our fares will probably be very similar.
Got it. You've been investing very, very heavily in premium in recent years. You've got a very well-known Atlanta-based competitor. I'll let the audience read between the lines as to who that may be.
Yeah, I really don't know.
They like to think of themselves as America's most premium airline. Is that a title you think rightfully belongs to United?
Well, look, I think we approach this as though it's really simple. It is rather complicated, and these products create complexities across the whole United structure and all the airlines that do this. But at the end of the day, we're trying to offer choice, right? And we made this decision a long time ago, really I've been at the company almost 8 years. And one of the first things that I talked about with Scott was trying to move this airline in the direction of offering choice to our customers. So if they wanted a basic economy experience, we could deliver that. Or if they wanted the most elevated experience in Polaris, we could do so, and everything in between. And I think that's just been a home run for our customers. At the end of the day, the United hubs are in 7 of the biggest cities in the United States with the most business traffic, the most cargo, the most international business traffic. And we're just doing what makes sense for the customers in our hubs. And that means we will be the #1 premium airline in the United States.
We speak briefly about the aircraft. What about where they're flying? Let's talk about routes. Your network chief, Patrick Quayle, said, and I quote, "United has been consistently ahead of the curve in finding what he calls hidden gem destinations, the likes of Christchurch in New Zealand. You're starting Newark to Marrakesh in Morocco just next month. Why is United so interested in these destinations, these routes that everyone else seems to be quite happy ignoring?"
I'm happy that they continue to ignore them, actually. Look, I'm looking for unique content to bring to our customers. They're looking for a beach destination. It doesn't have to be in the Caribbean. It can be anywhere all along the world. And we have found time and after time that, quite frankly, we were born on third base when it comes to global service. We have more wide bodies than all our US competitors. We have more flatbeds than our two primary competitors combined on our fleet. We are just in a different realm when it comes to this. And as we continue to build the network, everything that didn't make sense 10 years ago now makes complete sense. I can't wait to see what makes sense a few years from now. And by the way, on October 10th, we have another gigantic announcement here in New York City about a bunch of new things we're going to be doing all over the world that I think are going to be really exciting.
We'll put that in our diary. One of the recurring themes that our audience will have heard about today is over-tourism, mass tourism, call it what you want, it's the same thing. You fly to Mallorca in Spain. That's been a flashpoint for the anti-tourism movement. I saw it with my own eyes in Palma just last month. It's not great. Graffiti around the town, tourists go home whilst you're having a glass of sangria. You fly wide bodies in there, bring thousands of people in and out of that island every month. As an airline, do you feel any sort of responsibility? Do you take any responsibility for bringing more people into these communities that are already oversaturated?
Yeah, it's hard to judge, and it's hard for me to judge whether they're oversaturated or not. We definitely want to offer the flights to the communities that want them and to where our customers want to go, and we'll always balance that. There are destinations, and I think Southern Europe, post-pandemic, has been incredibly busy. Like the amount of demand, particularly from U.S. citizens that want to go to Southern Europe, I just couldn't ever anticipate it if I were to go back to 2019. And so we've put the airplanes where the people want to go. And I think for the most part, those communities want to have them. But we'll continue to evaluate this. If there are no rooms or no hotel rooms for people to stay in, or it doesn't work, we'll pull back. That doesn't make sense. But I will say Southern Europe in total has just been a gigantic, just unbelievable amount of demand in the post-pandemic world that didn't exist pre-pandemic.
And we should say at this junction, I'm sure you're all very familiar with the Skift app, the Q&A function. If we've got time at the end, we will be taking some questions from the audience. So if you do have one for Andrew, get that in now. We've got a slide that I think we can bring up from the Skift State of Travel report. And if you aren't familiar with this is 350 slides.
I promise no slides, so.
It's free of charge, research.skift.com if you're not familiar with it. It's looking at global airline revenues. I think hopefully we can bring that up on the screen. What it doesn't tell us is the distinction between corporate and leisure travel and everything in between. Give us your real-time assessment. How are things looking out there?
Well, the way I do this is I kind of go back to 2019, and demand grows with GDP. Right, and so leisure demand grows with GDP, corporate demand grows with GDP, and during the pandemic, corporate demand just stalled. And so leisure demand, as we came out of the pandemic, grew rapidly, in fact, in excess to GDP, and corporate demand did not. So corporate demand is beginning to grow again. It's great to see. It happens every September after the kids go back to school, and again in January when we start new budget cycles. I don't think we're going to get back to the same levels of 2019. We seem to have started a new place, and we're growing, I think, at a healthy rate. And it's great to see that in September. It definitely helps out an airline like United, which carries a lot of corporate traffic. So I expect it to continue to move in the right direction, but I don't expect it to rebound to 2019 levels adjusted for GDP.
And what about premium leisure? There was a lot of talk after the pandemic that people had savings accrued and they were going to treat themselves to that business class flight, that first class flight. Is it fizzling out? Is it here to stay? What's your verdict?
I think after you get the experience of one of those elevated products, you don't necessarily want to go back to the basic one. So I urge you all to try it, and we'll put on more premium seats to cover the demand for it. But we don't see a slowdown in that demand. We think consumer tastes have shifted. And we continue to see very strong demand in the premium sections of our aircraft, and we'll continue to expand those sections to cater to that demand.
Would you go as far, Andrew, to say it's a premium permanent shift?
Nothing's ever permanent, but it does seem like in this cycle, which could last for a very long time, that there is a shift towards more premium business around the globe, and even within the United States. Domestic first class here in the United States is booming for us. Relative to 2019, for sure.
Anyone that was with us last night will have seen the Deputy Secretary of State, Richard Verma, and he was discussing music tourism, even what he coined music diplomacy. I think the question that's on the lips of everyone in this room and watching online, Andrew Nocella, are you a Swiftie?
I am not a Swiftie, but I know a lot of Swifties. And I need to go because they all say it's great. So my head of revenue management, Dave Bartels, is a Swiftie. He's been all over the world with Taylor. Quite frankly, we watch where Taylor goes because our demand booms wherever she goes. We have a lot more demand to Lisbon or wherever it may have been so we watch her. We track a lot of events, and amazingly, we track Taylor Swift to make sure that we have the right number of seats into the destination she goes to. So it is real. It is phenomenal, and it's material to the destinations when she shows up and does a concert. I would have never guessed that, but it is material.
It is material. Can you quantify the Swift effect for us?
You're seeing like a 25% increase in demand, maybe even more than that on United jets over that weekend that she's playing, and then it goes right back to normal after the concert's over. So it is real, and it happens time after time again. So it's amazing to see.
Full disclosure, I'm not a Swiftie, but I understand that she is due to start a US leg of the tour. Is the domestic impact less pronounced than the international?
No, it's just as pronounced.
Just as pronounced, there we go.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anyone that's got access to Skift, which I assume is most, if not all of you, to check out Sarah Kopit, our editor-in-chief's feature written earlier in the year about the Taylor Swift impact on travel. It's a really, really great read. Let's go from Taylor Swift to a slightly thornier topic, and that's labor issues. We are going, what a segue. United
Let's
is
get out the caffeine now, right?
We got the early questions in. United's relying on Boeing very, very heavily. You've got hundreds of aircraft on order. As of last week, their teams in the Pacific Northwest are on strike, particularly affecting the 737 MAX, which, as we already knew, was a program in difficulties, shall we say. How long does this situation need to go on for before you start to get worried?
It's been a difficult road with Boeing. They're on a road to recovery, and we're very optimistic with their new leadership. So the strike is clearly a disappointment. It's going to have some level of impact. What I will say is, after the last few years of delivery delays across multiple manufacturers and engine issues too across the industry, we've put I would say an insurance plan in place to compensate for the fact that aircraft don't arrive on time. And in this case, the insurance plan was so significant for this year that right now we're not experiencing any issues related to the strike. If it were to go on for an extended period of time, it would have an impact, but we have plenty of aircraft available to fly the schedule as planned for the time being. And hopefully Boeing and its people can resolve their issues as quickly as possible.
The last strike lasted more than 50 days. Can you last that long?
I think so. We'll figure it out. We're going into a slower demand period time of year for us. If the issue was in the summer and we were short aircraft, I think it would be more of an issue. But because we've pre-planned to make sure that we have an insurance plan in place for other delivery delays, we have a cushion available to us for an extended period of time.
Labor disputes are not unique to Boeing. You've got some of your own. United flight attendants are unhappy. 99.9% voted to authorize a strike based on a 90% turnout just last month. How can your teams, your frontline teams, be expected to deliver what you once called the friendly skies when you've got such an unfriendly dispute bubbling away behind the scenes?
Well, I think our flight attendants do a great job every day and continue to do so even with the facts you just said, because those are facts. We look forward to getting our flight attendants a new contract as soon as possible. We expect it'll be an industry-leading contract, but these things take time. We're there. We're going to be working with our flight attendants, and we'll get it done as quickly as possible. We're as frustrated as them that there's not a contract in place today, and we look forward to getting one in place as soon as possible.
We don't have a union rep here to give their side of the story, but I'm sure they would say, it's all talk, we're looking for action. What are the stumbling blocks?
There is a lot of talk, but when you enter the mediation process, there's a set schedule regulated by the U.S. government on how this all works, and it's just not a fast process once you enter that mediated type of environment. So we'll get it done as quickly as possible, and we look forward to having the best paid flight attendants in the U.S. industry.
A reminder to get any questions in via the app for the Q&A. Scott Kirby, your CEO, reported last week that 3 million United Airlines passengers used miles to help pay for their summer travel, a milestone. Congratulations. I think we've got a slide from the Skift State of Travel report regarding loyalty. It can sometimes feel like an old man and woman's game in terms of generations. Gen Z, they're not really engaged in the loyalty programs in the same way that older customers, older passengers are. What can United do in real terms to bring Gen Z into the fold and potentially convert them into a customer for life?
I'm not sure that's really true. I think the engagement in the loyalty products and loyalty systems increases with age, that as you mature in your career and can afford more vacations, you become more integrated into these programs. So I think this happens just automatically, and it's going to happen in this case. The Mileage Plus is amazing. It delivers the benefits. It provides that aspirational opportunity to get to Tahiti or to get an upgrade into Polaris. People love these programs, and we're confident that they will continue to be as strong as ever going forward.
Good. Everyone at the conference knows Skift's conference food is the best in the business. The same can't always be said for United's onboard catering.
That's rough.
I think it's fair to say. You spend $2 billion on food and drink.
We spend a lot on food and drink.
$2 billion, is that about right?
I don't know if it's $2 billion. It's a bit less than that, but it's over $1 billion, yeah.
At the Aviation Forum in Dallas last year, you were speaking to my good friend Brian Summers. You said that you're getting quite hands-on behind the scenes to improve the quality of the catering. Where are we in this culinary journey?
It is a journey. We came out of the pandemic, and I don't think we recovered from the pandemic from a food perspective like we would have liked to. We did a bunch of technical things in the background that I don't think were necessarily optimal. So we've been fixing that. The first thing we did is provide more choice, and we did that about a year and a half ago. So when you get on board an aircraft, there would be 2 or 3 choices instead of just 2. The second thing we did is expand the pre-order. The happiness with our food, if you can select it ahead of time, is dramatically higher. So today on board a United aircraft, you'll get an email prior to departure, and you can pick, I think, 1 of 5 different available entrees if you're traveling in a premium cabin. And we're now rolling that out to Polaris. I'm going to Munich this weekend, and in fact, I got that email. I could pick from 1 of 4 great choices, and that increases, I think, satisfaction.
Not just chicken and pasta.
Not just chicken and pasta. There's fish, chicken, there's anything you could possibly want. And we continue to evolve. We've hired largely a new team that is working on our food and our food delivery. And we measure this. We do surveys. If you fly United a lot, you get the survey. And the scores for our food have increased dramatically. That being said, there is a lot of stuff in the hopper. Some of it started on September 1st, regional entrees here in New York and Chicago and other places. And there's so much more planned for next year. So if you ask me that question again next year, I'm confident everybody in this audience that flies a lot will have had it's already a better experience than it was a year ago, but a dramatically better experience a year from now. We're investing a lot more in food, the delivery of food, the choice of food, the quality of food, the freshness of food. We know it's an important part of your journey, and we're going to make it work.
You're the only US network carrier that doesn't allow a carry-on bag for free with your basic economy product. JetBlue changed its policy earlier this month. How comfortable are you with having the strictest policy in the business, some might say the meanest policy in the business when it comes to basic economy?
Well, what I would tell you is please buy a standard economy ticket. But that being said, the issue here is the overhead bins on board the aircraft were just not big enough to accommodate it all. And we are fixing that as quickly as we possibly can with our signature interiors. And so a year or 2 from now, I think that problem will have dissipated. But for now, the way we've solved this problem is that for our standard tickets and our premium customers, that by having that policy, we ensure there's enough overhead bin space for those bags. So that's why we do it. That's why it works. We think it's the appropriate experience on board for everybody. But in a few years, I think we'll be able to reevaluate this, whether it's the right policy, because we'll be able to accommodate everybody's bag in the overhead bins.
Got it. Sitting in that very chair in 2022, and I'm sure many of our audience here today was with us, was Vasu Raja, the
I know Vasu well. He used to work for me.
There we go. Your then counterpart, Chief Commercial Officer
Yes.
of American Airlines. And he was pretty bullish on the direct selling changes and ticket distribution. I don't think we need a big spoiler alert to flash up on the screen. We all know what happened next. Raja left the business earlier this year. Did you have any learnings, any takeaways at United about the missteps that American had with their strategy?
Well, look, I'm not going to talk about American, but what I'll say is, as we talk to our flyers and our corporates and our travel agencies, what we said is we want to meet you all where you want to buy. There are clearly higher cost channels and lower cost channels and easy channels and so on and so forth. And what we tried to do is make sure that our products is available on all shelves and everybody can buy the way they feel comfortable buying. And if that's direct, that's direct. The pandemic did cause and did result, along with our investment in our app, which is the world's best app, I think, by any measurement, with a lot more people going directly to United.com. It's at record levels relative to 2019. It's continuing to grow, and people get to pick. And I think you're seeing an increase in desire by folks just to go to their iPhone or their iPad and make that choice, because they can get their corporate discount on those applications as well. And if that's the way they want to buy, that's what we'll do. If they want to buy through a travel agency, we continue to have all those relationships. They're great relationships. They're important. Travel agencies add a value into the stream that sometimes United can't do. It's comfortable for our travelers. They can see other choices. I don't know why they want to fly anybody other than United, but a few do. And so that channel, I think, will continue to thrive. But ultimately, it's all of you to make the choice in how you want to buy. That's the way we would look at it. And I'm not going to use a stick to tell you what to do. I guess you get to make the choice.
As promised, we're going to take some audience questions, and we've had plenty come in. We don't have a huge amount of time, so let's have a mini lightning round. How about that?
Lightning round.
One here, with the Starlink installation, does it mean that the entertainment systems on United flights will become smaller and hence allow more legroom?
The new generation entertainment systems are smaller and don't take up all that legroom. And we're going to install all of those screens on every one of our mainline aircraft as quickly as possible. So that the older systems do have a box down there that's not great, and I think that space constraint will be alleviated in the future. And the new screens have incredible resolution and are gigantic, so they're beautiful to look at, and I think people are going to love them. And we are, to be very clear, we're going to continue to install those screens. And the other thing I'll tell you about the screens is, when we first installed them, there was, what's the business case for this, right? They're very expensive. And, we didn't know that it would be Starlink and our connected media division and all the other things that we would put in place. But those screens are going to go from, I guess, dumb screens to smart screens. They're going to know you are sitting in that seat, and they're going to be able to offer up content that you want to see. And I think that's going to be a magical moment.
One very, very final one from me. You've got decades of experience by your own admission. Andrew, been there, done that, arguably. When was the last time something in the industry blindsided you, when you were genuinely surprised?
Well, definitely the pandemic got me. I will say, I remember saying, we'll be out of the office for 2 weeks, and like 18 months later, we're still out of the, it's like, oh my goodness. This business is full of surprises. I don't know how many people in the airline business, but it is, every day something odd happens, something exciting happens, something difficult happens. But we thrive on it. Anybody in the airline business knows this. We thrive on it. We're ready for the next challenge, and there will be something tomorrow.
Fantastic.
Absolutely, and I look forward to addressing it and conquering it in some way or fashion.
A great note to end on. There's someone called Brian Chesky who I believe we're speaking to next. So
all right,
we better vacate the site.
I've got to move for that.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thanks for getting.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.